bonjour, this is Cecile from La Petite Creme and we are live for episode number 18 of our series Mom Talk with a French accent. So hello, thank you for joining. Hi everyone, thank you. Let me add in my co-host Varisa Pullman in. Here you go. Hello, it's nice to see some familiar faces here. Hi, Zelda. Is it Zelda or is it Deborah? You have both of your name in there. Tell us. Hi, Varisa.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Sophie. Hi. So it's only me today because Fanny is. Hi, Deborah. Fanny is applying today's topic very much so because we are talking today about summer with kids, and she's just spending the summer with her kids today. So she took the assignment to heart. So hello everyone joining. Hello. So as I was saying, I'm Cecile from La Petite Creme. You usually see me with my partner Fanny, but she's not here today. And I am joined with our favorite pediatrician, Dr. Varisa Pullman. Hi, Varisa.
Hi.
You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Dr. Varisa Pullman. I am a holistic pediatrician who is also working as a health coach, and I'm based in New York. So, this is a great time of year because it's hot in New York. So I know it's always hot in Miami. I know it.
You probably have a better sense that it is summer for you where you are than us in Miami, where it feels like it's unbearable right now. So it's summer all year round, and it's very hot in the summer. So so that's why we came up with this topic. So I am a mother of two. You happen to be a mother of two. Fanny, the mother of two. We have kids that range from 2 years old to, how old is your oldest?
21.
So we cover a wide range of kids and parenting experiences, and we all know that the summer is dictating an important part of our life, which is that summer break, right? So depending if your baby is a newborn or all the way to their 20s, the summer has this particular taste to it because it's usually tied with either a daycare being closed for a couple of months, or school being off for a couple of months, or the weather being different for a couple of months. So assuming you live in the same hemisphere as we do, you're not in the dead of winter for you, you're in the in the summer, but everything we say can be applicable whenever your winter is, right? So thank you for everybody's joining. So the topic for today is what to do in the summer with your kids. If you want to start typing in the comments what your plans are for the summer, why you're excited for the summer, what are your questions about the summer. Hi Melissa, we'll be happy to answer. And I remind you that we're going to have a giveaway today during the call, so you're going to have a chance to win La Petite Creme Baby Shower Set, which it has our favorite, I see your little hearts around. So you have the diapering lotion, the smaller one for your diaper bag if you plan to go on a trip with your baby for the summer, 50 of the cotton pads, and our famous diaper balm. So stay on, and at some point we're going to just ask a question, and whoever is here gets a chance to participate and win this. So summer, Varisa, what do you have for us on summer? What are your memories of summer with kids?
It's funny because you say summer break, right? But I think it should be named actually summer scramble. I think summer scramble is actually a better term. I think that for parents, and you think, oh wow, your kids are older. This must be a distant memory, and no, not at all. Like, I think maybe it was so impressionable. I feel like summer, there's a little bit of a panic because you have a routine. If the kids are in school, there is a rhythm to your day, and it is good to kind of mess with the rhythms a little bit. But a week by week, whether it be you're traveling, or that they're in a camp, or they're in a different camp, or are they swimming this week, or are they sailing, or are they going to basketball? It's like every week is like a new adventure, and you know, besides the fact of like physically and emotionally having to prepare differently every week, you know, there's cost. I mean, I know how in Miami, you know, I mean, I remember some of these camps per week were just astronomical. So like you kind of go from a space where you kind of know what the cost is going to be for school to being like, what can I do with my kids so that we are just literally not blowing the budget all summer as well.
Exactly. And it's also like before school, the daycare phase, when you have a baby, sometimes the daycare also changes their rhythm for the summer. And maybe not necessarily their time, but sometimes it's also the time that they accommodate for the care of your baby, but also just the type of activities they need. And I remember with my children, it's like, oh, now it's water day, now it's swim day, now it's like zoo type of day, and you're like, okay, it's just different. But I think you point something important, which is the change in the routine. So here in the previous episode, we've been talking a lot about how routine can be good or bad. Like it's good in a sense that kids need that to grow and develop and feel more able to self-control their life in a sense. But changing the routine sometimes is nice because it kind of gives them a chance to explore different things for you and for them. What would be a positive impact of that routine change for those of us who are watching, who are wondering like, okay, how do I face that change? Like what's the positive of that change from your professional point of view?
You know, it seems to me that the thing that we want our kids to be ultimately, whether we realize it or not, and because I think that we also realize what the world demands of us as people, is to be flexible. And I think that a lot of times, you know, there's always this fear that, you know, yes, we do talk about like morning wakening time routine, like the bedtime routine. I'm not really talking about messing so much with that. It may get messed up if you're traveling, you know, but when you're in kind of a different place where they have a different drop off, where they have a different pickup, you want kids to kind of get to the point in their maturity that like, they're like, yeah, okay, let's do this. That's cool. Oh, okay, this week we're swimming. Okay, I'll do that. That's not a big deal. You kind of want them to get that challenge that they may not get in a school year that has kind of that standard one. And you say, oh my God, but it's so hard. Yeah, it's hard, but there is good things to it. There's actually a good thing to it that everyone gets shook up a little bit.
But it takes time to get there, right? Totally. Like for those who are going through that, I remember, again, my kids are older now, but I remember when they were little, first, for the first few years, I couldn't envision changing my routine because it was my safety. And I felt like all the thing of like doing something different felt overwhelming. So I think it's very appropriate to mention that today to people who are watching. If you don't want to change your routine, you don't have to. Don't feel like you need to do it just because we're saying, oh, it could be beneficial. You have time to do that later. It's not because you don't do it when your kid is 1 year old that you know it's forever approved. But when you start changing that, it takes some back and forth with your children so for them to accept the change because they also feel comfortable in what they know. And at first, I remember those moments where you're like, okay, I'm going to do something spontaneous and do something like different. And for once, I'm going to be the fun mom who's going to just like bring something up. And everybody's miserable because nobody's really prepared for it. And then it's not the right timing exactly. And then the baby is like, but why? And you are expecting this, like, you're feeling that you were the one holding the spontaneity. At least that's how I felt. And when I was trying to implement it, it came back in my face like very hard. So is that something common? Was it just me? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always growing pains. They don't call it like growing tickle. You know, like there's always like, it's painful. I mean, even to me, I feel like the most cogent view of that is traveling. I think that traveling, like the first couple times you do it, it's like, why are people traveling with children? Like, why would you have to pack for like a 1 year old? Like, why are we even like making ourselves do that? And then you start to kind of have like a feel like, okay, well, actually, this is what we need. We don't really need this. And then, but if you don't do it, if you only do it once a year, for example, you're just never going to get the hang of it. But if you make little trips here and there and you kind of get used to this idea of like, maybe I don't have all my things with me all the time. And maybe I have to kind of you know, use this instead of this. And sometimes there's a little bit of joy in that. Yeah, sometimes you're like, oh my God. Like I remember being in New York, being so silly and having a double stroller, like side by side double stroller, and being like, I can't even get in the door. Like I can't even, like what am I supposed to do with this? Like, and so there were a couple of disasters where I was, okay, I clearly got, you know, schooled on that. But at the same time, I kind of went back to it. And so the next time I always joke with my husband, if they had like Olympics of like how to get through security with like a 1 and 3-year-old, I'm like, I would beat. I think that our team would beat. I always wanted to wear T-shirts. I'm like, we beat anyone. I remember we looked over and there was this one guy traveling by himself. And I was like, I'm gonna show you, Larry. All 4 of us are gonna get through it before that guy. That's how fast we got. Like I had like a whole system. But it was that kind of thing that's only because it was something that I felt was important to me. And maybe, again, like you said, it's not a priority for everyone, and maybe but to me, I think that's a great skill to push yourself. And summer break is that time to kind of like experiment, jump in, jump out, kind of like see if your kids can kind of experiment, push them a little bit. Sometimes there's something like amazing that comes out of it that you didn't realize before. Whereas if you were doing the same thing every day, you may not come across that discovery.
And there's something amazing I found is you can build that up after the fact. So one of the trick that I found for myself is in a couple of trips that, as you said, sometimes it's just like, it's overwhelming, it's too much, you can't really contain it. As a mom, I have a hard time like just pretending that everything is fine when it's not. But the beauty with young children is that they learn from the moment, but they also learn from everything you tell them, because their memory kind of fade quick. So if you keep referring to that trip with all the good parts of it, and if you turn this into like an adventure, remember when we lost whatever, it was an adventure. Then for them in their head, it was a great experience, no matter what it was in reality. But you can turn that into something positive. So next time there is something that comes up, you can refer back to those moments that you have kind of reconstructed as a positive experience or as a learning experience to kind of build up with them toward making it more comfortable. Right?
I think that's totally on point with learning from your children and that idea of them healing you as they grow as well. I remember coming from Michigan to Miami, and you know, we were there for just the weekend. I remember it was the 4th of July weekend. We were just there for a weekend. So me and the kids were in one bag and my husband was another. Just, you know, just the reality of traveling with a family. It was the 3 of us and him. And whose bag gets lost, right? Like our bag, right? The one that has the 3. And I mean, when you're coming to Miami, as you know, I had jeans on. I mean, you're going to die. Like you're in July, you're going to literally just melt before you even hit the taxi, you know? And I am just like, almost having like I'm hyperventilating. I'm just so upset. I'm so upset. And I remember we're waiting in the baggage claim area. I look over and my kids are jumping in and out of the door. Watching the door open, close, open, close. I mean, they were like, I'm already having fun. Like I've already like moved on to the fun thing. Like whatever, it's not like the middle of Sahara. Like we're like, even then they probably sell T-shirts there anyways. You're like, what's the big deal? And I felt like it was a learning experience for me. You know, I learned a lot about myself, and I think that that's absolutely true. It kind of forces you to model. If you're the one who's like, oh my God, you're going into this camp, it's totally new, I'm so scared. I guarantee you, the kids would be like, oh my God, like, where are you sending me? This is awful. You know, like, I don't know. But if you kind of like are mindful, and you're like, you know what, I'm a little anxious about this. Let me just kind of work through this anxiety and use this as an exercise to push myself a little bit more. I feel like summer break is that moment to just kind of push ourselves, and it's a really great moment to reflect on the year, to see like, what did we learn, what can we get better at, you know, as you set yourself up for the school year. So having that break, it's relevant, and you do need that kind of break in a lot of ways of your routine. I think that's really important.
So the break in the routine is also somehow less of a break for the parent and mostly for the mom, right? So that word, as you said, like summer break, it's not like a vacation necessarily for all the members of the family, you know, if we're being honest. So, because if you have your baby at daycare, for example, or if you have your child who is taken care of by a nanny or something, if that person is not available, that system is not available, all of a sudden you're facing your child a lot more than you used to.
Totally.
And
Totally.
maybe it's something you don't talk about. Maybe it's something I know personally. I had an issue with that. Like I had a hard time being a full-time mom when I was forced to be. Like I think the component of it being imposed on me was sometimes difficult.
Right.
And I felt guilty for it because I was like, oh my God, am I a bad mother? Like, so is that something that you can relate to? Is there anybody here who feel like they can relate to? Because it's not all like the perspective of spending a month alone with a newborn can be something that's frightening.
Well, I was literally just going to say, you know, here we are talking about things to do, what to do, how to do. And, you know, I'm always talking about how to unschedule. And I think that equally, summertime, yes, is a busy time. It can be a busy time. You make those decisions as to what activities you have. But it's also a moment that you can also have slower times where they don't have to go to something. Take advantage of that. You know, if you kind of see that there are weeks, like maybe alternate the weeks, right? Where it's really busy. And then the weeks where you're like, no, let's have like a week of like just chilling at home. That's a big break in your routine. I mean, you know, most of the time during the school years and just modern day culture, there's a lot of like activities after school and during the school time, and then come home, get ready, pack up, ready for it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. You know, until you just feel like it's like this weird cycle. But summertime kind of allows for maybe some large breaks in time that you can show. So like if you are at home and you're all of a sudden feeling like, wow, it's just me and the baby, you know, it is important to kind of craft a little bit of a schedule, to kind of craft time that like maybe, you know, when the baby is resting, you don't run around doing all of the errands. You know, say, hey, you know what? If the baby's going to rest, I think that it's time for summer nap time. Like, I'm going to rest too. I know I'm a grown person. Like, I know that I don't usually nap, but like, you know what? I think I'm going to nap too. And I think that kind of rhythm and allowing that rhythm to kind of take over your days in the summer is nothing bad either. It's kind of great too. So I think there's a lot of possibility when we talk about summertime for both you and your kids, because, you know, we tend to kind of get into the grind. We get into the routine, and then also we blink and look up and we're like, wow, it's 6 months later. Like how the heck did that happen? And I think, you know, if you can somehow create moments during your days that, you know, you are with your kids maybe more than you usually are, it's always good to kind of schedule like rest time. Like there's no reason that you have to be like super summer person, you know, super summer camp. And that really does force kids to make something out of nothing. You know, there's a big push right now to kind of allow kids to get bored so that they can have that self-initiated learning. They can kind of learn on their own as opposed to like having things pushed in their face. Try to live some of that. You know, take walks with them where there's no video or no nothing, and basically they have to amuse themselves with the sky, you know, with, you know, what's walking by, what they're seeing. You know, those are small moments that don't always exist in the school year.
And summer has a lot of that to offer because the days are longer. Again, back to when I was in France, the seasons were something that exists. It doesn't exist here in Miami. But the days are longer. The tree, the flower, the smells are different. Like the outdoor has a lot to offer, right? Whether you're from like the city or the country or whatever climate you're in. It does have a lot of opportunity to just be outside and look and sit and explore without having to perform for something, right? It's I know you mentioned a lot the performative parenting. It is also one of those expectations that, oh, what are you doing for the summer? Right? Where you could be like, I'm summering. I'm just going through and see, because it's a moment of, as you said, like you need to also recharge before you face those months not necessarily the school year, because not all the kids are going to school yet, but the fall that is coming, the winter, which are months that are more draining because of the natural activities of life. So summer is a moment to like kind of regroup and think. And I found that one of the tips that I used as in my summers was that even though, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom and the summer is like, it doesn't change so much and you would like to take that break, there are a lot of people that are free in the summer that are usually busy doing things. So whether it's like other family members that are in vacation or school, like teenagers or any other older kids that are on vacation, or other parents who happen to be taking care of their kids because they took the time off, maybe the time for you to rely a little more on your circle and your village so that you can also take that time off. Because otherwise, as a mom who is at home with your kids, you may never have that time. And summer might not feel like summer if you don't use that external, you know, realm of people to help you get that moment where you can take that nap, you can take that shower, you can take that walk on your own. Maybe you can't really do that on your regular year, right?
Yeah, and we talk a lot about, you know, different concepts that I think are a little bit more generational. And I think that, you know, in our past generations, you know, even taking a night out with your partner so that you can recharge was like kind of a new idea this generation. Like, I feel like my parents' generation was like, I don't understand why would you need that? Why, you know, you're supposed to be a shell of a person, you know, by the time you finish your children, that's all understood, you know? And I think that, you know, women particularly are not very good at compartmentalizing and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this for me. You know, I had a conversation with a mom recently. She goes, yeah, you know, I have a nanny, but you know, if the nanny's around, she takes one kid, I take the other kid. And that's it. And I go, well, does the nanny ever watch both kids so that you can go out? And she's like, well, I just thought it was good to have one-on-one time. I'm like, you know, why don't this week take an hour? Just 1 hour this week where the nanny watches both kids and you go out for a walk and your kids can see that, you know, mommy needs her own time too.
But it's difficult at first. I have to admit that at first it feels like you have that guilt. So that thing that you get when you have a children, that you're being gifted and you don't know it comes as an add-on, it's that guilt. So whatever you do, you have the guilt of being like, oh, because it's the summer and because there is all this anticipation around summertime, I should be the one spending a lot of time with my children. And maybe it doesn't have to be 100%, right? No. What they want is, and maybe they're going to have a fantastic time with the nanny for an hour while you go take a walk, and they're going to enjoy you being refreshed after you come back from that walk.
It's quality, not quantity. So I would much rather you be 100% during the time that you're with your children versus being 50% and being with them 100% of the time. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You being present is more relevant to them. And, you know, it's interesting because this person, we worked over a couple months to convince them that they should go out and exercise for an hour. And, you know, at first, you know, their kid would be like, where are you going? Right? Where are you going? You know, and she would be like, I'm going to exercise. Like, I'm going. And then, you know, each time it got a little bit easier. And then, then her, you know, she would come back sweaty and she just would look, I mean, kids can tell when you're happy. You know, like when you like, she'd come back and the kids would be like, hi, mommy, you know, you are sweaty and you just came from exercising. And they like that. They like to understand, like, where are you going? They're really sometimes just asking, where are you going? They're not even that crying. But to us, we hear it as like, cool. Where are you going? You know, they're just like, they're actually just asking, where are you going? They're not trying to like do any game at that moment either. And it's that kind of thing where because we're so laden with the guilt, we feel it. And so now, you know, she's like, I'm going to exercise. And they're like, good, have a good time, mommy. You know, good. You just come back sweaty. Like, the kid's fine. Like, they're fine. But what you're modeling there, which I think we have to understand how relevant modeling is. You know, we are modeling, you know, exercise is important. When you say, I'm going to go for an hour and, you know, you're going to stay with them, and I'm going to go for an hour and mommy's going to go read in a cafe. It sounds ridiculous, right? But they're like, oh, reading is important. That's really nice. Go for your walk and go reading. Like, that's really nice. Like, you have a space or a time that you exist when you're not my mom, when you're not my wife, when you're not my partner, you know, like when you're not a job, that you exist outside of your roles. And it's so hard in the beginning, just like how we're talking about changing routine is really hard, right? But to me, a goal for me, for the people that I work with, is that to kind of make it as normal as going out to do errands, going out to do groceries, go out and exercise, like go out and take a walk and like be on your own for just a little while, because it does allow us to be more present. And that's, in the end, that's what the kids really want. The kids actually don't respond well when a parent is sitting there. They look exhausted. Because I've watched these kids, by the way. You know, the parents are not aware. You know, they're kind of like distracted. I live in the Upper West Side. People are walking everywhere, right? And school pickup, it's a busy time. And I've been that parent. I know what it means to be like, okay, we got to pick you up. We got to get you on this thing. You got to go. And I see this parent like dragging, you know, this kid, one phone, the phone here. Come on, we got to go. And the kid's like, but the bird flew over. I go, the kid's like, why can't we be like now? Like, what, you know, they really want to be present. They want people around them to be present. And that's the hardest part of us. So like, you know, as you go into the summer, like you said, like the quantity of time that you might be with your kids may have increased, but make sure that you take care of yourself so that quality is there too, because that's really important for kids in terms of them feeling comfortable, enjoying themselves, being creative. It's a great creative energy time. You know, that's what you want when you come through the summer.
Yeah. So on that note, I think we'll do the giveaway now. And I think I found the perfect question for the giveaway. So I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, and I'm going to ask you, whoever is watching, I'm going to ask you to write down what is the one thing you're going to do for you this summer.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see. So write in the comment, what is it that you're going to do for yourself? So we said summer with kids, and the question is going to be about you, because you are the foundation of the well-being of your child. So Melissa, Deborah, whoever is here, write down the one thing you're going to be doing for your child or for you that's going to eventually, you know, help your family. So one thing you're going to do for yourself over the summer. We give you a few minutes as we continue talking. Melissa says, as a new mom, this has been the hardest thing for me, but going to try harder to find more time for myself. Wonderful, Melissa. We love hearing that.
Yeah.
It is important that we start doing that. And why is it important to do it early? Because
yes,
I feel like it's hard when you just had a child, or you just like you're having a baby, or you have multiple kids, to kind of look at the big picture, because you're so into it. But it's if you could do one thing, is kind of look back and try to look at what you would want your kids and yourself to be in 5 years or in 10 years. Like where my kids are right now is a fantastic stage where I can see the independence, I can see the sharing of ideas back and forth, I can see the flexibility of being able to travel together. And I think that vision of where I wanted to be ideally in our dynamic has helped putting like one step at a time toward that goal, right? So as you were mentioning earlier, yes, it takes practice, because you said traveling was important for you. So you maybe naturally said, okay, we're going to try small and do a trip, I don't know, to the next city. Like it doesn't have to be a giant trip, but if you manage to find some time to kind of look at a 5-10 years perspective, then you know where to put the energy so that you can grow toward there. Because it's not when your kids are 5 and when they're 10 that you're like, all of a sudden we're going to start traveling. It's not going to happen if you haven't built to it, because that resistance and that fear are going to be higher, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, I like what Melissa was saying, was taking more walks, and she's 23 weeks pregnant and with her second. So she's kind of, you know, she's gone through this. And the idea is that, you know, you start earlier, because it may not look perfect in the beginning, but if you just start the habits for both you and your children, and like really flagging it as something that's important, and kind of seeing how the kids grow into it as well, it becomes kind of this exercise that becomes habit. You know, you don't form habits overnight. And I think that I love this idea of really stepping back and having like overarching goals. And I know that seems so overwhelming, but sometimes we do lose the forest for the trees. We have no idea. Like, you know, we're just kind of, I feel like sometimes I felt like there was like a big cork board with a bunch of holes and I was literally putting my finger in all the holes. But when you have time outside of your kids, outside of your family, that you can kind of just say like, and it doesn't have to be 3 hours. It can be 10 minutes where you're like, this is going to be, I remember when I was with my kids, and especially when they were very young, I would sometimes feel that resentment. I'll be honest with you, I could feel it brewing. I would feel it brewing, and it would be a point where I was like, today, for 10 minutes, I'm going to do this just for me. And that's kind of what you're asking, is that what are there things, what can you guys imagine? Because the summertime does give you more time. So say you start during the summer and you're like, you know what, for 10 minutes a day, I'm going to do X, right? And you're like, but
walk like Melissa.
Yeah, who knows, right? What is, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to focus on just me for like 10 minutes. And you might say, you know, this is a summertime thing. But you know what? What I would love is that when the school year starts, that you're like, you know what? That was kind of awesome. I really enjoyed that. I'm going to somehow find that in my day now that the school year has started. And that's the joy of the summertime, is to just kind of like experiment with kind of new things, new ideas, and see how it makes you and your family feel. Because a lot of times, you know, we, again, just jump right in. I mean, I as a pediatrician, you just start to see it, right? In Florida, school starts early. Like we're like the second or third week of August, you know, and we're just right in it. And, you know, everyone in Miami like travels until the very last moment, you know, and then they swing in and it's like, it just goes from like 0 to 1,000, you know, like, and everyone's like just getting ready for school and in school and getting the routine. So like, you know, sometimes things just like kind of sweep over. So it's really good to kind of have something in place for like, yeah, but this was really cool that we did during the summer. And it seemed to calm everyone down. I am a big walk person. I mean, I know it's hot in Miami. So I know that like people in Miami are like, really? Did you really walk? You know, but I will say that I feel like, you know, just being able to be out in nature, I think really helps both the kids and yourself. But if you can take those walks on your own, that's even more kind of special, because it's really, it's movement, but it calms you in a way that I don't think much can. You know, it's a very specific, special idea.
It's really very minimalistic, right? Walking is the most primal way of, I would say, passing time. Yeah. Because you're kind of in movement, you can look around, it's a free movie going around you, no matter where you are, just looking at different details and stuff. Walking is great to get your brain out of everything without having to focus too much on what you're doing, right? So
I'd like to believe that, you know, whatever higher power there was that created the world kind of dropped us on the earth with everything that we needed, you know? And, you know, when you look at the sky, your eyes start to kind of beat in a very specific way. And that actually is just an in-place calming mechanism. I'd like to think placed, you know, for a reason. There are things that are out there to kind of tickle your imagination. You know, a breeze goes by, you smell something that smells good, you see something that's funny, you see something that's weird. You know, it just, you know, it is just, you know, inexhaustible.
And it brings a lot. You mentioned like seeing something funny, something weird, seeing an animal, anything, whether you work in, you know, in a very dense city or in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. That also brings some food for conversation for later, because sometimes you feel like, okay, I don't get out of the house. I feel like all I have is this at home environment. But if you see a squirrel going around, or if you see like something funny, that also brings something that you can talk about. Yes. When you talk to other people and be like, I saw that in the street the other day. I saw this guy doing this weird thing. And so that also brings cable. You know, like in Miami, we see a lot of weird stuff on the street. So that's free entertainment. But it does bring an element of like something new that comes to you without you having to go fetch for it, which is beautiful as well. So
tell me a little bit, because of course I have a very romantic view of France, and I don't know if people know, but like in Europe, like summer is sacred. I mean, like people are gone. Like, don't, I know that the Olympics are in Paris now, but like, don't be in Paris like in the summer, because in a lot of places, because whole places are closed down, right?
So in the French culture, first of all, the system is very generous to where there is like a minimum of 5 weeks of vacation time during the year for anybody who works.
Yeah.
Some companies, it goes all the way to like 11 weeks if you add up all the different like exceptional PTOs and stuff like that. So it is very generous into like the vacation time. Yeah. And the summer, you wouldn't see anything really working in France between July 15th and August 15th. It's kind of like a dead time.
Yeah.
And there is a real respect for vacation. Like if you're on vacation from work, nobody's going to call you. And people are going to wait for you to come back because you're off. And you call a company like this person, oh no, vacation for 3 weeks, for a month. And you're like, call back. So there is that element where your vacation are kind of sacred from the system, which is a blessing. There is nothing you can do individually for that. It just happened to be there. And yes, the summer is really seen as this moment of like joy, eating a lot, being outside a lot, taking it slow, and having that moment that cannot be invaded by work or constraint or negativity. So there's a lot of planning that goes into summer, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I have some French friends, and if you see the feed that's coming in from Fanny, and I mean, you can feel the leisure. I mean, Fanny, usually you two together, Fanny's usually yawning because one of her kids probably kept her up all night. I mean, and to see her really enjoying and having dessert and having some wine and being outside, and just knowing that I see like her brain is moving to a different level. It's a completely different space. We just went on vacation, and it's the longest that I've ever taken. So it was 10 days. That's the longest.
Okay. Oh, wow. See?
20 years. That should not be it, but that is the truth.
It is it's the reality, right?
And I mean, when I was like in that transition, there's only one other time in my life when I was in transition. I took 2 weeks on my honeymoon. And then when I came in from residency, before I started working, I spent a month in like Thailand and Asia. So that's the longest, but for the last 20 years, the longest I've gone is like maybe 10 days, right? I've never even gone for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so we 10 days. My husband is a lawyer. He's very connected, always has his phone, always like replying, and he had to do some work, but literally, I kid you not, it took him 5 days before he could shift, in the sense that like he wasn't checking his phone all the time.
That's why France is heavy on a lot of time off, because they have been proven to be more beneficial. Because if you spend like 3 weeks, the first week you're just like you're trying to get stuff done, and then you have a full week where you can actually rest, and then the last week you're trying to like catch up to get back to your regular life. So having a long stretch of time is really something that you need if the system allows to, right? It's unfortunate that here you can't really afford that because it's just the way the system is built. So
and I mean, I think so, like, when you talk about summertime and summer takeaway, so to me the thing that was stunning was that literally after the 10 days he was like, he gets this weird insomnia where he'll fall asleep and then wake up at midnight and then can't fall asleep until 3. Like, it's like the worst possible insomnia possible. And he would get that like once a week, right? So he was expecting it once or twice a week even. He would get it very often. And after the 5 days, literally the rest of the time, he never got it again. And that was real. Like, my husband's not someone who like complains all the time or whatever. And I was like, listen, like, we have to kind of replay like some of the things we did. We did a lot of walking. Yes, we did a lot of like beer gardens. So
that's kind of
that seemed to help. I don't know if that helped or not. But it was a kind of thing where like I'm doing what we're talking about. We're like, let's use the summer to shift up our kind of routine and then take a piece of it. So that
bring that bring that to the rest of the year.
We can continue that, because I don't believe, in Michigan, sometimes there's this whole mentality of where like, I'm not going to do things for myself every day. But like when it's the summer or when I go on vacation, I'm going to be happy. No, like I always would tell people, like, well, what if you got hit by a car like in the middle of December? Like that's not a good way to live. Like you should enjoy life every day. And frankly, was one of the reasons why I actually loved Miami. I felt like people in Miami would be like, look at the sky, look at the sun. Oh my gosh, like let's go take a walk. I mean, people they were aggressive about trying to have fun. And then as time goes on and you're working all the time, it's harder and harder to kind of remember that mentality, right? To kind of like to gain that back. So I really think it's you know, it is hard when you're running around, you're pregnant or you have a little kid or you're about to, you know, things get chaotic, but take pieces of what you learned during the summer where you do disconnect. I think that, and it's funny because, you know, again, unless you've been to France or you've been to Europe during that period, people are traveling and people are like, things are shut down. They're like, it's not even, you know, and I mean, I know that custom, so I know you're the time is coming. You're going soon. And I'm just like last minute, I'm like, okay, just throw it because I really don't want to, you know, like I don't want anything, you know, like I don't want anything happening. And I think that that's technology follows us and makes that disconnect so much harder.
Yeah, that's why the walking is a fantastic example of taking, because you can hardly walk with a phone in your hand without like hitting your head or like stumbling onto something. So I think walking is a very good way to innately disconnect you from everything except from your surrounding, right? You can actually look at people and say hi and just engage by, you know, like acknowledge other people walking by or like walking their dog or anything like that. So it does have a big element of like connecting and disconnecting from the usual stuff and connecting to new stuff, right? So let's announce our giveaway winner. I have the gift right there. I'm going to show you one more time so that you know what you're about to win. So that's our La Petite Creme baby shower bundle. So it has your favorite diapering lotion for changing diaper without baby wipes the French way, the smaller version for your diaper bag, 50 cotton pad disposable to get you started, and our travel size diaper bowl. So thank you for all the little hearts. So the diapering lotion, the small one and the bowl are TSA approved. They're under 3 ounces. So you're going to be able to take them on a plane if you go on a plane. And then the bottle will stay at home, but it can travel in your car if you go somewhere in the summer by car. You can take it on your walk. It's easy. Look, you can take it. See? So, and the winner of today's challenge giveaway is going to be, drum roll, it's all about special effect. Melissa. So, hey, Melissa, you're going to be the lucky winner, and we hope that you're going to enjoy your walks during the summer. And for everybody else who entered, we hope to see you soon for another one. Sorry you didn't win this time, but you can find this bundle on our website. And if you go on Amazon today, it's also there on Amazon Prime, and there is a coupon there. So, yeah. So, you're welcome, Melissa. We're so glad you got with us today, and that you're gonna get to enjoy some French diapering. So your little baby is gonna have a beautiful little bum. So we'll contact you after this and take your information to send you your prize. Okay. So, so Summer, let's wrap it up on this. So, any last word of advice as far as health? Because you're a pediatrician. I always, you know, pick your brain about health because it's a valuable piece of information that we can have there. Anything to be on the lookout for, anything to be, we don't like the word worry, but anything to be looking for, positive or negative for the summer when you have a baby, especially like a tiny one.
Okay, so I think, you know, because I was saying I kind of need a hot sec for that. Let's just do basic heat. It's hot, okay? So, you know, with the babies, obviously we don't do a lot of water, but like, you know, for you, if you're breastfeeding, you know, you definitely need to be getting your electrolytes in. So I like a smart water, and smart water doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, but it's like an electrolyte water. So for kids, and I don't really like it, like, you know, like all the Gatorades and all of that stuff for the kids, you know, so something simple like that. But it is hot out there. So look at your calendar before you go outside. Try not to go in the middle of the day when it's like really hot. I just came in from outside, and I came in, I was just like, just melting, you know. Coconut water is a great electrolyte solution. And just, you know, really keeping yourself as cool as possible, like little baths, like the water is your friend in terms of like, you know, the evaporative loss, you know, so what it does, it just kind of pulls off the heat sometimes. Yeah. Dress fully, because, you know, this climate change thing is pretty intense, you know, and we're seeing, we were in the upper, you know, we were in Seattle and, you know, in Vancouver, and it was in the 80s the whole time. And I mean, you would just look at all the people who live there, and they're just like, I don't know, you know, and I'm like, why is it so hot, you know? And they're like, because, you know, there's not a lot of AC, because they don't usually have
it. Doesn't get,
yeah. So they're like, we don't know what this is. So it is very real, and we're living in a kind of a different time. So just, you know that the summertime is going to be hot, I think.
And the water is also a great play time, right? So you can take if you have a little bathtub that you use usually inside, you can take it outside and then put your baby with the hose. Be careful with the hose. Make sure the first water that has been sitting in the hose has been cleared out, so you don't want the water that has been warming up in that hose. But after a while, you can use that and sprinkle it on their feet, on their hand, and have them like touch and feel the water. In the outside is a different environment than doing it inside. So it's also a great.
And just, you know, to piggyback on that, you know, water safety. I mean, you know, there's a lot of swimming. You know, Miami does tend to swim more during the summer. Most places do too. Even, you know, most Miami people don't really swim in the winter. We're very weak like that. We become very. But just, you know, like if you guys are at a party and there's a lot of people and you have a 3-year-old, like, and you have a pool in that backyard and you're not used to that, like, everyone has to be very careful to not lose sight of that 3-year-old, you know, because, you know, drownings are real, you know, and I think that, you know, there's a lot of concerns about dry drowning where they have issues when they're learning to swim and they're inhaling the water, but drownings themselves happen much more frequently than drowning.
And it goes very fast, even with people around. I can testify of that personally, that even if you have a lot of adults around, nobody pays attention if multiple people are paying attention. So make sure there is always one dedicated person per kid.
Exactly. And they just tag off, because there's a lot of like, oh, well, I thought you were watching. So that's kind of a place where that cannot happen. So watch that. There's a lot of talk, especially when I was practicing, about dry drowning, this whole idea that when they're kind of first learning to swim, they almost like inhale a lot of the water, and then they get kind of like waterlogged. They can have issues later. It's a terrifying idea, because there's this whole concept that they kind of, you know, all of a sudden they're kind of choking on this. The truth of the matter is that if you have a situation where when you really do see it, it's not as like from 0 to nothing. You know, these kids do look not well throughout most of the afternoon after they've been swimming. Does it make sense? So like everyone thinks that they just look fine. I will say that, like, you know, if you're in a situation where like you're going from party to party and they're swimming and they're like kind of like, just like calm down the day, because you can tell when your kid is not feeling well. And
so dry drowning is when your kid is in the water.
Right.
So, sorry, I'm going to explain it for like the very basic, from 0 to, you know. So your kid is in the water, so there is water involved. It's not entirely dry, like they're drowning in their living room. They're exposed to water, but there is no active sense of them being underwater. It's just that they might have swallowed water without really being under.
Almost like inhaled it, almost like kind of. It's hard to tell, because kids kind of like sometimes splashing, but it's more of like you said, like they didn't really go necessarily even underwater, but they're kind of like inhaling it more than they should, which kids drink the water in a pool, it happens. I think my caveat to that is that I see people, especially in Miami during the summer, they go from pool party to pool party to pool party. And any person would be very exhausted, right? Yeah, water into the lungs, right? So it's a little bit of an aspiration, you know, kind of in the sense where it's like there and it's irritating it, but that sometimes that inflammation doesn't show up until later. It doesn't get worse until later. And what people will describe is that they kind of went to bed, they were really tired, and then they became more ill over the night, right? What I will say is that don't overschedule yourself. That this is one place where I think if you have your kid and you do an activity with them and that's it for the day. Don't go to 3 more of them, because then you can't tell, are they tired because they're just tired, right? Or are they tired because they're getting sick. Did you see that? It's a very subtle difference sometimes. And so, don't overdo it, but again, I want to emphasize, because this became kind of a session and a lot of people got really, I would see a kid that like had splashing a week ago and they're like, oh, I think they're having dry drowning now. And it's like, no. Like, these kids do look sick. I mean, it's not like they look, well, they look sick.
Okay.
But sometimes I will say that, especially when I see in Miami and during the summertime, we just overdo it for the kids. So they are going to look really, really, if I've gone to 3, parties, I look like crap too. So you're not going to be able to tell, is your kid sick or not, okay. Right? And it's so try to like keep it even. Don't overdo yourselves. Like, if you go to a party, realize it. I have to tell you, people in Miami are like, oh, you want to come over for a barbecue on an afternoon on Sunday? We'll have some drinks. I say yes, but I'm really scared because I know Monday, between the dehydration and some of those drinks, I am literally going to be like nothing on Monday. Like, I will not.
And also, even if not in Miami, like the days are longer in the summer. And if you go to a party, inherently it's going to last longer, right? The kids go to bed later because it's still light outside. So you can overdo it even if you do only one thing, but you're like, oh, we're going to go until it's dark. But being dark was at 6 o'clock in the winter, and all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock and you're still out like doing stuff around, and the kids get exhausted that way too, right?
Totally. So I think that, really realizing they have to be hydrated. They have to have times where they're not out in the elements the whole time. Look at the fruits, a lot of there's a lot of good absorbency of all the bioavailability for the fluids in like the watermelons and in all of these kind of fruits that I feel like nourish you in a way that sometimes water can't as well.
Okay.
But like the electrolyte fluids, kind of keeping up what they're eating. Sometimes kids go through the whole day without eating because they're just having such a good time and they're running around and they've been like swimming all day, so just, more is not better necessarily.
Okay.
We want to keep our kids active, but like, especially with the parties and like kind of getting over to people's houses and just kind of losing track of time, that can be really overwhelming in the summer.
Okay. Well, happy summer, Varisa. I think it's the perfect closing to this session.
Yeah.
Happy summer, everyone who was watching. Congratulations again, Melissa, for winning our today's prize. And we wish you all a fantastic time over the summer. As Varisa mentioned, I'm going to take off for a few weeks to France. So if you follow us on social media, you'll see a lot of French pictures. We're going to try to share some of our outing with you guys to make you travel a little bit. Thank you for your happy summer wishes, everyone. And we'll see you when we come back after the summer for another episode of Mom's Talk with a French accent. Until then, au revoir. Bye.